What's your name?
Roena Bays.
And where did you serve?
Well, I was a year at Mitter Airfield in California, and then I went overseas. I was in England for 8 months. And
What year was that?
45.
So right before the war had ended or after the war?
Oh, during the war. In fact, we went over on in 44. I'm sorry, that I probably should have said 44 instead of 45. But 44, we went over to England at the time of D-Day on the Queen Elizabeth.
So were you with a lot of soldiers when you went over on the Elizabeth?
Oh, you better believe it.
Were they a rowdy bunch?
No, not at all. Everybody was pretty serious at that time.
And were you in the Army Air Corps?
Army Air Corps. Mm-hmm.
And what was your position in the military?
Well, in where? In the States or overseas?
Overseas.
I was with the 8th Air Force Composite Command.
And what did you do?
I worked in the building where we kept the maps for the bomb groups, and also the briefing room for the officers. And there, in the officers' briefing room, we kept it up to date. And when the officers came in for their briefings, we took their names. They went in. We checked them off as they went in. And when they got in there, the door was closed and locked. Never heard a briefing.
So really tight security.
Absolutely.
So were they briefing on the missions they're about ready to fly and debriefing and such?
You would have to ask one of them, because we never heard a briefing. Our maps, a courier would come with a list of what maps they wanted, and we put them together, rolled them up, sealed them, stamped them secret, gave them back to the courier. We had squadrons on our base there in Cheddington. B-17 bombers. We do know what some of the things that they did. They had leaflets. They had big barrels of leaflets, and they flew missions and exploded those big barrels. Leaflets flew down from them, and encouraging them to surrender.
Did you ever get a fly on any of the warplanes?
Well, we went to France in a B-17.
That's pretty cool. What were your thoughts about that then?
That was really a neat flight, right? We landed in a little base called Agnan, north of Paris. The Germans were leaving rapidly. We had and we were in France then. Everything was going very rapidly at that point. And
so what was your most memorable time in the service overseas? Something that really sticks out to you?
Well, the time I spent at Cheddington during the war, during the main part, you know, before anyone surrendered. You know, they were, our bombers were, our B-17s were pretty active.
So were you stationed on the airstrip?
No, we were not.
But I'm sure you saw lots of planes coming and going.
Coming and going, absolutely. Yes.
And when did you exit the service?
Pardon?
What year did you leave the service?
In 45. It was September 45.
Did you enlist?
Yes.
Why'd you enlist?
I was the first of the year in 40, 43, no, 44. You know what? Some of these things just aren't.
A long time ago.
Well, it certainly was.
Do you remember why you enlisted?
Well, mainly because my brother was already in, my nephew was going in. He went in on Iwo Jima. My brother was in the Pacific. And we had a Thanksgiving dinner at our house, and I just said, well, I'm not going to be here next year. Saw this big ad in the newspaper, you know, and so I filled out my application and sent it in.
What did your parents think of that at the time? Were they okay with it, or?
Do you want me to tell them the story?
Sure.
I was teaching school at the time. And I went home one weekend after I'd seen this ad in the newspaper. And I said, Mother, I think I want to go. I said, what do you think I should do? And she said, well, you'll have to make up your mind. I said, well, Mother, if there was a war going on and you had the opportunity to serve, what would you do? She said, I'd go. Well, that answered that question for me. And I said, should I tell my dad now or wait till I've done it? And she said, well, you know your dad. And I said, after thinking about it a little while, I said, I think I'll wait till I've done it.
So what did he
That's
say
it.
after you told him?
Nothing much. I never knew whether he really wanted me to go or whether he didn't until I sent some targets home from when we were getting ready to go overseas. We had to go on the range. And so I sent my targets home because I thought they were pretty good.
All bullseyes?
Not all of them, but. And he took them up to the garage where he worked, and I got a letter saying that they were disappointed that I would take a pencil and punch it through them.
Well, I'm sure he was very proud of your marksmanship.
So I thought, well, he didn't disapprove then.
Any other stories you'd like to add?
I think that's enough.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.